Good evening and welcome to the Job Search Solution, the radio program where we talk about looking for a job, changing jobs, changing careers, hiring. And as always, we begin with a prayer. Dear God, grant us thy peace and thy mercy, thy will be done. And in this session, we're going to talk about why people get hired. And this always comes as a shock when I explain it to people, and always comes as a surprise when I explain it to the groups that I've spoken to over the years. 20% of a hiring decision is based on, can you do our job? 40% of a hiring decision is based on, do we like you? 30% of a hiring decision is based on your risk factors as a candidate, and only 10% of a hiring decision is based on money. So first, the first 20%, can you do the job? That doesn't seem like much regarding why somebody ought to get hired, only 20% of the decision. I call it 20% of 20% threshold. It's the threshold that you have to prove in order to even get to the other aspects of getting the job. 20% of the hiring decision is, can the candidate do the job? Obviously, if a person spent all of their time in accounting and is applying for a sales job, the probability of looking at this person and thinking, well, this person can do our job, only amounts to, it isn't going to happen. It's only 20% of the decision, but it's the first 20%. So if you're a candidate looking for a job, you have to establish your ability to do the job based on your experience, your background, and all of the things that go into you being you. Being a great athlete, of being able to do just about anything, doesn't normally cut it, especially in a market like this. You've got to be able to prove, I've done what you want me to do. I've been successful at what you want me to do, and here's where I can prove it. 40% of the hiring decision is based on, do we like you? Do you fit into our company? Can we all get along with you? I have one employer that I've worked with over the years that have what they call the duck blind test. The question is, would you spend time in the morning in a duck blind when you're duck hunting with this person? Male or female, doesn't matter. Are they likable enough? Are they enjoyable enough to be around to spend a miserable day in a duck blind when the ducks aren't flying? It's cold, snowy, wet, rainy. The duck blind test. Do we like you? Do you fit in? I've seen hundreds of candidates over the years that really weren't all that qualified get hired simply because people liked them. We'll discuss in another session how to become likable. But it's real important to understand that 40% of a decision is, do we like you? Now, lots of people will say, that's unfair. You're right, it is unfair. Life's unfair. Nobody ever said it was fair, and nobody ever said it was easy. But 40% of a hiring decision is based on, do we like you? Do you fit in? Can we all get along? 30% of the hiring decision is based on, are you a risk factor? And what are your risk factors? Are we going to have the risk problem of somebody looking back and saying, well, you shouldn't have hired this guy or gal because look in their background what their risks are. And risks come in many forms. You could be too long at a job. Most people think stability is really important. Well, it is. I've had candidates rejected from positions because they were at one company for too long. I had a candidate the other day that had a DWI in his background and an assault charge in his background. He didn't think those were risk factors at all. He said, well, I can explain those to people. It's not any big deal. They're no big deal. The employer checked him and he found those. And he's asking the candidate, what's with this? The candidate's saying, nah, it is no really big deal. Well, those are big deals. You've got to know in going into the interviewing situation what your risk factors are. And you need to be able to offset those risk factors, because a company is going to look at you and think 6, 7 months, a year from now, if this candidate doesn't work out, were there things in his or her background that I could have seen where they weren't going to work out? Too many jobs, been out of work for a really long time, gotten fired from your last position, poor references, all kinds of things. And most candidates don't ever think of the fact that they have any risk factors at all. And when I ask candidates that, what are your risk factors? Oftentimes I just get a blank stare. They go, well, I don't have any risk factors. I'm a perfect employee. We all have risk factors, and you need to know what your risk factors are. And then 10% of the hiring decision is based on, can we work the money out? Interestingly enough, if all of the first three issues are taken care of, the money always works itself out. You don't have to worry about the money. 99% of the time, if people can prove and really like the fact that you can do their job, that they like you, and there are very few risk factors, or they're willing to at least live with those risk factors, the money will always work itself out. Most people get all hung up on money because it's an objective thing that everybody can recognize and everybody can see, and it's a common denominator. But if all of the other three things are taken care of, the money 99% of the time works itself out. So just remember, you need to be able to prove I can do the job. You need to be likable. You need to have few risk factors, and then you need to work the money out. Stay tuned. This is Tony Bashara with the Job Search Solution.